Every year we tell ourselves, next year we'll calm down. And every year, healthcare marketing gets louder, faster, and more uncertain. So, what does resilient leadership and being resilient actually look like when the pressure just doesn't let up? And right now, leaders are navigating layoffs, mergers, nonstop AI disruption, and even teams that are quietly burnt out but are still showing up for work. The old advice of just pushing through isn't going to cut it anymore in terms of being resilient. What matters now is how leaders tune in, set boundaries, and help their teams do more than just survive. And that's exactly what I'm unpacking today with my colleague and friend, Brittany Quemby. She's a fantastic healthcare marketing leader who's been thinking about resilience, transparency, and what type of leadership is needed as we head into 2026. Let's get to it.
Swaay.Health.
Brittany, welcome. This is so much fun. We're in your studio today.
I know.
Doing
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I love it. It's very, very festive.
Very festive. You caught me. This week was my decorating week, so you came at a good time.
I did. Look, this is fantastic. Look, we got
Yeah.
a fireplace going. We got
I
the
know.
garland. It's been great.
I
great.
I love the holidays. So
Well, thank you for agreeing to come on the program with me because we're here to talk about interesting topic, leadership.
leadership and resilience.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun discussion. Like resilience. That's a kind of an interesting word, right?
I mean, in this day and age, it's a very interesting term because I'm sure it means different things to a lot of people.
Yeah. So why don't we start there? What does that word mean to you? What does it mean to be a resilient leader to you today?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the healthcare industry specifically, we're always pivoting. There's a lot of pressures that are going on. Regulations are always changing. We have to kind of be, um, ready for anything. So I think for me, it's more about tuning in rather than pushing through. I feel like a lot of the times, back in the day, or you hear that term, like we really just got to push through and get there, which I mean, I think there's times for that. But I do think like we really need to be kind of tuning into our team and ourselves to be able to work in this industry and be successful. So I think the best leaders aren't like white knuckling it, but are really in tune with their team and themselves. And you can kind of do that a lot of ways. And I think everybody's different in how they kind of in tune with their team.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. To me, like resiliency, it means different things at different times. Like I think if you were to define yourself as a resilient leader, but only focus on toughing it out or being like always like straight and narrow in terms of your purpose and your strategies, to me that doesn't work, right? You got to go with the times. You got to go with your team. As your team changes, as the time changes, as the environment changes, that's when you need to show different skills. You need to become almost a different style of leader, right? Because right now there's a lot of uncertainty, right? And there's a lot of technical change happening with AI and everything like that. So you kind of have to be like really sensitive, aware of how your team is feeling right now, because if you don't address their fear, they could leave.
Yeah.
Right. Or if you don't address their fear, they could just turtle and then just not want to do a lot of the work or try as hard or be as creative because they don't want to stick their neck out, right? So I think as a leader, to me, being a resilient leader today means really having your ear to the ground of what does your organization want? What are your team feeling? And then figuring out a way how to get the best out of your team to achieve the goal. Now, that's pretty hackneyed to say that because everyone says that. But I really do think like this is the time for a resilient leader to kind of show like, okay, like I got to help you get through this time by helping to address some of these uncertainty feelings that you have.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think, one of the things I was going to say is emotional awareness, not only of yourself, but of, like you said, of your team. And also promoting kind of those micro recoveries. And we've kind of talked about this before, but, really showing those habits that, that help not only yourself but your team, whether it's going out and going for a walk or grounding or just like taking a step back and really mentally focusing on what you do. I think another big thing for me is transparency. So even as a leader, there's times that projects are happening, deadlines are happening, and you're not always kind of transparent about like what's on your plate or what you're working with. But promoting transparency and having your team promote transparency really helps you kind of all get aligned. So if there's too much on my plate, I can let you know, or you can let me know, and we can really help each other together. I mean, that's something I have to work on. I don't do it a lot. So it is one thing that I'm trying to work on in 2026 is, really just being cognizant of like what's on my plate and transparent and making sure that things are getting done and out the door.
Well, and again, I got to agree with you, but I think it extends beyond, I think it extends beyond the leader, right?
Yeah.
If your team is behaving in a transparent manner, if your team is behaving in a communicative way, they're open, they are asking for help, and they're not afraid to ask for help, meaning you've made it comfortable to say, hey, I need some help here, then I think that's a sign of a resilient team.
For sure.
And I think that is as good, if not better, than just having a resilient leader, right? Is you got to have your team feel that they can ask for help when they need it, that they can offer help, and not have that other person feel like you're stepping on their toes, right? That kind of thing. Because like that's kind of what we need right now is you need to be very, very flexible as the times change so quickly, as environments change so quickly. So to me, like that is the true goal of a resilient leader, is to create a resilient team, right? It's not just you. I mean, it's fine that you're resilient, but it's better if your whole team is.
Yeah, and I think you said it best. I think, resiliency isn't just lasting, it's lasting well, and not just yourself, but you and your team.
Yeah, exactly right. Because like, what's that saying? Like, hey, just living or just surviving is not enough.
Right.
Like, you've got to thrive too. And so how do you create an environment where that can happen? Well, and it is pretty uncertain. It's been kind of a up and down year. Some people are doing really well. Some people are having a horrific year. There are a lot of people, friends of ours, that are still looking. Brittany, what do you do to pick yourself up when you hit a wall or when your resilience may be feeling a little low?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not afraid to say that happens often. I'm a mom of 2 young kids. I work full time, and like you said, there's some of my friends have experienced, what we've talked about. I've experienced it in the past, and what we've talked about. So my biggest thing is I always try to take a step back. And really try to prioritize things. I'm a big list person. So if there's things that are kind of like swirling in my head, I always take a step back and I chunk out my priorities in small chunks because it makes it feel a little bit easier to kind of accomplish. Or I talk about those things with, my peers, whether it's someone, like you or John, also my mom and my partner. We talk a lot about things that are going on, but really try to get me out of my head and prioritize things about what can wait, what is a priority right now and what can wait to get off the plate. And that kind of just alleviates the things that are kind of swirling around. I go to my friend Amy Hamilton a lot. She probably gets a phone call from me like twice a day. So, and she probably hates it, but yeah, just really, and also the Swaay community. There's a ton of people in the Swaay community that I reach out to, weekly just to chat. And that's what the Swaay community was built upon, is really, talking to those people, sharing your experience and, how did you cope with this, or what did you do here? So for me, I'm a big, I'm going to talk to everybody and hopefully get it off my chest and feel better and have those tangible things that I can do to, to make it seem less tough.
That's a good one. And I apologize for being the topic of some of your conversations with Amy. I'm sure I have been.
Colin, you've never been. That one time when you needed me to run around New York City to go to a Walmart, you were never a topic of conversation with Amy and I.
Yes, our Walmart runs are very famous.
Oh, the best.
It's funny you say that because I do other things. For me, one of the things I do when I feel things are out of control, because that's usually when I get my lowest, is when I feel like just things are hitting me left, right, and center. I feel like I'm not in control of anything. My inbox is out of control. Got so many deadlines. People are waiting to hear back from me. Like, I'm terrible at that. So when I get like that, it's really hard to be resilient, right? And just how can I be resilient when I'm not even living up to my own expectations? So
Right.
I usually try to reset by doing something that I read in a book a long time ago, and that was really when you feel out of control, you go back to just focusing on things you can control. And sometimes you have to go all the way back to, I'm just going to make the bed this
Right,
morning,
totally.
right? Because I can control that, and I'm going to finish that in like 5 minutes. And then I'm literally going to go and like, fold the laundry. And then you work your way up to, okay, you know what? I'm going to answer 5 emails, or I'm going to get back to these 5 people. There is a little element of prioritizing, of course, but then you start slow and then work your way back up. And sometimes this can take days. Like it's not like, hey, in an hour I'm like ready to go again. I'm energized. It can take a little bit of time. Talking to people does help. Like you, I reach out to people who I think may have gone through what I'm going through, or maybe has a deadline or something similar to that. And I don't even ask them about it. I just talk to them. And just in my mind, I know, hey, this person's been through it, and like they've probably been through it many, many times, and now they're calm and cool. Oh, okay, I'll get there too eventually. So talking to people definitely helps. And then the Swaay community, and just being able to go online and just read other people's posts on LinkedIn. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that's cool, that's inspiring, and just spending 10-15 minutes just cruising, not doom scrolling. What's the opposite of doom scrolling? Positive scrolling.
I like that.
Whatever that is. I like doing that. That's what
Yeah.
helps me kind of get energized again.
I totally agree. Those chunky or like those small lists, really give you almost like you've really achieved something, as menial as it is. But I do the same thing. Like, what 5 things can I do to get done today? And you know that feeling you get when it's so satisfactory to like check it off your list. You're like, I accomplished those things. So I love that. And I think, like you said about you just seeing and talking to people who have experienced the same thing. It's nice to know that you're not alone and that everybody is kind of feeling some sort of way or has in the past. Like you said, that it is a bit of a crazy time and there's a lot of stuff going on. So to have that feeling that, other people are there with you is always, good.
Yeah, like, again, going back to what we mentioned before, like there are a lot of people going through job change right now, forced or unforced, right? The voluntary, involuntary. And so I've been fielding a lot of calls from people who are in the midst of doing a search, right? And it is quite daunting right now. There's not a lot of activity. There are more marketers being let go than being hired. The roles that are being hired for oftentimes are more junior than what these people are at in their point of the career. So just talking them through it. So I don't have a solution. I wish I did. I wish I had jobs for everybody, but sometimes just sort of chatting it through to go, hey, well, maybe try this. Here's an opportunity maybe that may not be a match, but maybe it's a great company. Just try. It's just like see if that. So each person I talk to, we try different things, or we at least have some conversations. I hope it helps. But equally recently, I've been getting a lot of outreach from people who are going through merger or acquisition. So
we know that well.
See, we've been through it a couple of times, but it's so funny because when I hear these stories, I'm like, yeah, totally sounds familiar. Like we've lived through it.
Right.
But for these folks, it's their first time. And so it is daunting. Everything is totally out of control. It is highly political. And then you have these very strange feelings like, am I stepping on someone's toes? Should I step on their toes? Because they're stepping all over mine. Like it's such a weird, it's such a weird time when going through M&A. But the resilience and I guess to help get through it, reach out and talk to people because even if they don't have a solution, sometimes it just helps to talk it out.
For sure. And it's funny, though, to hear those stories because a lot of them sound very familiar. So it's like, how is it the same thing that's happening each time? You think that there would be, a magic button that doesn't make for all this, awkwardness and weirdness that happens. But it seems to be the same thing happening each time.
Every single time. I think I've been through 4 acquisitions. All 4 have been almost identical in terms of the impact on people. Different circumstances, obviously, different technologies and things, but the impact on people and how it played out is pretty much a textbook, right? It's a textbook. So we should do a whole session. We can do a whole episode on just surviving an M&A.
I mean, it might be a good therapy session. Who knows?
So Brittany, we're recording this near the end of the year. 2026 is just around the corner. Can't believe it.
It's crazy.
Do you think that we're going to need to be more or less resilient next year?
I'm going to say more. I don't see us having to be less resilient. I think there's a lot going on in our space, but also in terms of, everything that's going on with AI and different technologies, especially in the healthcare marketing space. I think one of the things of how we have to be resilient is slowing down and really taking a look at kind of AI and some of the technologies and how is it applying to our specific roles, our specific companies, really kind of being thoughtful about, is this going to make me more effective? Is this going to help? Is it the right, is it the right thing? And thinking about the people involved, who are going to be, utilizing these things. So I think it's kind of turning things on its head. So I think you have to be resilient in the fact that it's probably not going to be smooth, and you might need things, you might not need things, but really kind of taking a step back and having a strategy about what you're implementing and how that's going to affect you and your team and your company is going to be important.
Yeah, totally agree. I think we're going to need more resiliency next year rather than less. I think, unfortunately, the job market is going to get a little bit worse than before it gets better. I also think, to your point, AI is going to cause more disruption early on in the year than less. But I think we're nearing the slowing part. I think the amount of disruption, the amount of change, a lot of it has happened. A lot of it. And I think it'll slow down a little bit. And so there will be an opportunity to kind of take a breath at one point to kind of go, okay, let's slow down a little bit here. We're now getting into some more iffy areas of where AI can be helpful. Like now we're getting into more clinical decision support, all those kinds of things. AI in terms of agentic agents for handling lots of different tasks and things. I think we're at the exciting part of it, but I also think people are going to be a bit more cautious. I think it was pretty easy to kind of go, hey, let's do AI for ambient scribe or AI scribing, or AI for content creation, or AI for personalization of messages. That's easy, cool, done, disruptive, but we can handle that. Now we're getting into more like audience AI and all these other things. I think people are going to proceed a little bit more cautiously, sort of towards the second half of 2026. So I definitely think we're going to need more resiliency next year.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, let's hope that they do. I think, that's a big thing, is being cautious about, how it's going to work for your product or your company, or what it's going to do for you, and really kind of being mindful about that.
So given all that, Brittany, what does resilient leadership look like for you in 2026?
Yeah, I think it's being very clear and intentional and authentic. I think with myself and with my team, as we've kind of talked about, the economy and our industry is very fast paced and, like you said, unnerving, I guess. So really trying to take a step back and being intentional with how I operate as a leader and the choices that I make and the projects that we kind of go forward with. But I think I mentioned it before, is also like modeling good boundaries is also helpful. I think, from as a leader perspective, teams are watching you, or, modeling kind of some of the behaviors that you're doing. So really being mindful of, how I'm acting and the intentional steps that I want to take, and maybe that kind of flows down into the team.
Yeah, no, I love those, actually. Yeah, so you kind of model the behavior you want to see, right? And show the resiliency, and so that way the team takes cues from you. I think that's a great one. I think for me, this is both a personal goal, but also I think will help with resiliency in 2026. For me, anyways, is just being more present. I don't know why, but 2025 for me will go down as a year where I think my head was in the clouds for the entire year. Like, partly it's because of the travel, but I also think just partly where there was so much happening. My head was swirling with all the trends and all the things happening that I didn't feel very grounded. So for me, I think in 2026, to be more resilient, I'm going to spend more time trying to be present and just trying to, like you said, just kind of slow things down a little bit in the time I've got while I'm at a show, or the time I got when I'm at home and trying to get some work done. I think hopefully that'll help me be more resilient in 2026.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned one thing that sparked something, is I also want to be or do things that are more authentic, and show up for our community in a more authentic way, but also just with social media and AI and everything that's going on, like you never know, what's real, what's not, what's up, what's down. So really trying to be authentic as myself, but then throw myself into authentic situations and projects.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up this one up, Brittany?
No, I mean, it's wild to think that 2025 is gone behind us, and now we're going into 2026. But just looking forward to a new year. I always love the new year, setting new goals, and it just feels like a fresh start. So, looking forward to implementing some of the stuff we talked about here today, but then seeing what's on the horizon for 2026.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully catching up with people in 2026 from the community and relying on them to help both of us, and myself included, very much so, to be resilient in the new year. So,
Totally.
well, thank you so much for being on the program, Brittany. It's always a pleasure to be here in your studio. Thank you for the hospitality.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. I appreciate it.
We opened this conversation with a familiar push and pull. Everyone talks about resilience, but few agree on actually what it means. What Brittany said so eloquently is that resilience isn't about white knuckling it through chaos. It's about being aware, being transparent, and building an environment where teams can adapt together. To her, resilient leadership means slowing down just enough to make better decisions, set real boundaries on work and personal life, and creating environments where teams feel safe asking for help, especially when it involves AI. So here's a question I'm going to leave you with. What does resilient leadership look like in your organization right now? And what kind of resilient leader would you like to have? And hey, if you made it this far in the video, we really appreciate it if you could mash that like button and click subscribe. Or you can even write a nice comment below. Also, head over to Swaay.Health, that's Sway with 2 A's, .health, where you can find more great content like this. I'm Colin Hung. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.